Hello and welcome into our Women in Sports panel at Cash Bash 2020. I'm John Gross, and tonight I am so thrilled and honored to be joined by two great guests to discuss some very important issues in the sports industry. Our first guest is a familiar face for many of you who are joining us this evening. Alexis Pittman is a senior forward on the UNC Pembroke soccer team. Alexis last year was named to the Peach Belt Conference All-Conference team. She tied for the Braves team lead in points, scored 8 goals last year with 4 assists as well. And she was a major part of a Braves team that last year reached its 4th NCAA tournament. And we're also thrilled to be joined by a true trailblazer in the NFL. It's Coach Jennifer King of the Washington football team. Coach King is in her first year as a full-year coaching intern. She works on the offensive side of the football, primarily with the running backs. Her previous coaching experiences include stops at Dartmouth with the Carolina Panthers, with the Arizona Hotshots of the AAF, also has basketball coaching experience at Johnson in Wales, in Charlotte with the women's basketball team. She doesn't just coach, she's a phenomenal athlete as well. In college, played basketball and softball at Guilford College, and also plays professional football. Her career spans thus far from 2006 through 2019, most recently playing with the DC Divas. So, Coach Alexis, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having us, John.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll start off, since this is a Women in Sports panel. Coach, we'll start with you. What does it mean to be a woman in sports?
It means a lot. Obviously, I've ventured into football the past few years, into a world that not many women have been a part of, and it's super cool to be on this journey with some really cool other women that's coaching in the NFL, and I'm excited for the future. You know, I think we're kind of opening the door for some people, and some people open the doors for us. But to be a woman in sport, I don't think there's been a better time for us.
And Alexis, how about you? I know you're coming at this from a student athlete perspective, but what does it mean to be a woman in sports?
I do, like also Coach King says, I do think it's an exciting time for women in sports in general, especially with all the protests and all the impactful games that's going on lately with soccer, basketball, any type of sport that's going on that women are involved in. So a lot more women are getting more involved than ever right now.
And, certainly even right now, and especially in years past, a lot of challenges have faced women in the sports industry. It's certainly a male-dominated industry, and while that's starting to change, I know there are still some challenges. Coach, what are some challenges that you faced thus far in your career?
It's kind of weird. I think that the biggest challenges typically come from the outside, which I've kind of learned to tune out. Within the organizations I've been a part of, there's been a lot of love, and obviously the guys have greeted me well. And I feel like, really at the professional level and even at the collegiate level, if you know what you're doing, the guys and the coaches, they don't care that you're a woman. It's all about, can you help and what do you bring to the table? And that's something that I've really prided myself on. It's just knowing what I was doing on a day-to-day basis and being able to help the guys be the best they can be on Sundays.
And Alexis, how about you? Have you faced challenges being a woman in sports?
Like Coach King said, I think, people, no matter what gender, they respect you if you know what you're doing. So I think more so it's having to prove yourself on the collegiate level, starting from the beginning, club to collegiate, even into the pros. You have to learn to prove yourself. So I think that's been one of the hardest things, is just having confidence in yourself and then learning that you got this. So people know it. I mean,
Coach, you have a fascinating career path, and you've played sports, you've coached sports. I know you're also a police officer, but it seems like every twist and turn, it kind of falls back into coaching. Why are you so passionate about coaching? Why do you want to get into coaching and football in particular?
I love sports. I've always been a sports fan. I grew up always at some type of game. I had an older sister that played, so we're always watching her play or watching a cousin play, or even going to games where we didn't know people ever playing. But it was just always a part, of my life. And then I started playing myself. So naturally, when I graduated college, I love sports and I love football. And ultimately, I was able to combine those two. And now, it's kind of it's been a crazy journey for me. But, now I've made it to the NFL, and it's super special for me.
And Alexis, I know we were talking before this interview started. You want to become a soccer coach, obviously a phenomenal player, but why do you want to jump into the coaching side of the sport?
I think from a younger aspect, like I think I've always been good just because I've worked hard at the sport. But even from a young age, I've just always been into the coaching side of the game. You know, I've always been into just watching different people play, and I remember drawing like different plays and trying to explain to my parents like if this girl could do this and they make this run, and then if they could just like set up this way, like, and if the coach knew. So I've always been into playing in different ways, just creating different ways to play against other opponents. So I've always been excited about that.
Coach, when I introduced you before, I called you a trailblazer, and I'm not the first person to say that. You truly are a trailblazer in this industry. The first full season African-American female coach in the NFL. And I know you'll also be taking part in a game with the first ever NFL game with females in both sidelines and a female official. What does it mean to you to be a part of all of these historic achievements?
Well, for me, it's all about representation. You know, it's important to be a representation for the kids now. You know, I didn't have this representation, and I didn't really envision that I could do this because I didn't see anyone that looked like me doing it. So now that I'm here, I think it's super important for me to be visual just for those kids, and not just little girls, just kids in general, to see someone that looks like them, you know, in a position that they can achieve. And I think it really opens up your mind and your dreams as far as what you can achieve.
And Coach King talking about representation. Alexis, what does it mean to you as an aspiring coach to now be able to look out and see coaches and say, oh, they're there, I can do this too?
Yeah, I think it gives me a lot of encouragement. Also a lot of sources to pull from when trying to grow specifically as a coach, and just seeing women like Coach King and different minority women, or all women of coaches of some sort sport. It just gives me a lot of encouragement, and it gives me a lot of positivity and hope.
Coach, I know you have known Ron Rivera a couple of different stops. I know you worked in Carolina and now with the Washington football team, him, of course, being the head coach there. Coach Rivera has had a reputation for years as being a very progressive person, and he's looked to bring change into the NFL. I know this year hiring Jason Wright as the first Black president of an NFL team, which is mind-blowing that that's the first time that happened. And Julie Donaldson, who is the senior VP of media as well. He's really seems to be diversifying that franchise and bring a lot of change to the NFL. So what can you say about Coach Rivera and the job that he's done to try to bring this important change to the NFL?
Yeah, I think Coach Rivera is all about culture, and you know, he's a great leader, and I think a lot of his leadership is culture driven. It was in Carolina, and now that's what he's trying to do here. And I think people are really buying into that. You know, you look at the world, you look at our team; it's so diverse, and it's kind of weird that, you know, front offices and coaching staffs aren't diverse. You know, there's not a accurate representation of the team or of the world. So I think it's really cool that he's giving people opportunities, and I think that's all you ask for is an opportunity. You know, you don't want to be special or have to, you know, create things for you, but that opportunity is all a lot of people need it. And you talked about Jason, you know, being the first Black president of the NFL team. It's not like there were other qualified people who didn't want to be presidents of teams. They just never were given those opportunities for, you know, for whatever reasons, you know. But Coach Rivera is very progressive, and, you know, obviously I'm thankful for him, but I think ultimately the whole organization is going to be super thankful for him and the new culture that he's bringing to our organization.
And do you foresee that culture spreading more throughout the NFL?
Possibly. I mean, there's like 5 of us now coaching the NFL, females, and Sam Rappaport does a great job with the league as far as identifying possible candidates for positions and having her NFL women's football forum. And also, I mean, Commissioner Goodell, he has 2 daughters, and he's obviously on board with really diversifying the league. And I think it's been cool, and it's exciting to see what will happen, you know, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, you know, what sidelines could look like.
And I think you mentioned 10 years from now. I had that written down as something I wanted to ask both of you about. In a perfect world, and I guess being a little realistic with things too, what would 10 years from now, what do you hope that the sports industry is like for women? Alexis, we'll start with you.
I guess 10 years from now, in an ideal world, it's being realistic, as you said, just equal opportunity to show what you have and equal opportunity to just be able to receive, you put in the work, you work hard for years, and to come up short isn't something that any player wants. I think equal opportunity to be able to show what any player has and the ability to receive what they put in for, the amount of work they put in for, they should receive the credit for it.
Coach, how about you?
Yeah, like she talked about, it's all about just an even playing field. And, I think, me and some of my friends that also work in NFL, we talked about maybe in 10 years that it's not even a story anymore. If a female is hired for something, it's just, oh, it's another great addition to their staff or whatever they want to do. So I think in 10 years, it would be awesome if that was kind of the thing where it wasn't a big deal, if women are hired anymore.
I think one of the things about this, in the midst of this pandemic, we were without sports, and some of the first sports to return were the WNBA, the NWSL. To me, that gave those sports a bigger platform. I certainly enjoyed watching them, and it seems like women's sports are starting to make their way, rightfully so, more into the mainstream of American sports. Alexis, do you feel that that's the case, that women's sports are starting to get more appreciated now than in the past?
I do think so, because mainly just recently last year with the 2019 FIFA World Cup, I know the women, obviously playing to win, but they were obviously playing for bigger reasons, to make a statement like there needs to be a change within the organization for the national women's team. And from there on, I think you could really tell a difference. That women of all sports, they were just the camaraderie and just playing, and yeah, it's a big change, and a lot of women are on board supporting each sport with each other.
Coach, I know that you've had a phenomenal playing career, playing professional football. Do you feel that a women's professional football league can eventually make its way into the mainstream of the American sports landscape?
I think it ultimately could. There are several leagues now, the WFA and the WNFC, who've obtained large sponsorships from large companies like Adidas, Rydell. And that's what you need to sustain those things, to be able to provide that financial background to support it and to obtain TV deals and things like that. And I think it's one of those things, once you see it, it's like, oh my God, like this is good football. It's not like lingerie football, it's normal 11 on 11 football. And that's what I've heard from many people that have attended games. You may not know exactly what to expect, but when you see it, it's like, this is like real. Like there's athletes, playing at a very high level, and there's plenty of former, big time athletes, out there running the football and making tackles. So, I hope and pray that one day it is kind of mainstream.
Now, do you plan on continuing your playing career in tandem with your coaching career in Washington?
It's a good question, man. I mean, luckily the women play in the spring, so obviously it was canceled this year. So I have some time to decide. I think I would like to, at least one more year, but we'll see what happens when they get there.
I certainly hope you do. That would be a lot of fun to watch. Can you give us an inside look at what your role is, right? Because I gave your title your title earlier, full year coaching intern, but what exactly do you do for the Washington football team?
Yeah, I'm an offensive assistant, so I work, directly with the running back group, but also help out our offensive quality control guys. So it entails a lot. You do a lot of breakdowns for future opponents. You do breakdowns for the individual groups. Like I do different things for our running back guys, and there's just so much that goes into preparation in the NFL to try to win on Sundays. So we work really hard. We work really long hours. Fridays we get out a little earlier, so I was able to do this with you guys. But typically, I'm in the building before the sun's out, and I'm home, late at night. So you don't really have, too much of a life. It's just a lot of proper preparation that goes into trying to win and trying to be good. So I do a little bit of everything for the offense, and then specifically with the running backs and with the quality control guys.
And I know earlier in your coaching career, you had coached college basketball at Johnson in Wales. What are some of the, I know two different sports, but what are some of the common themes, in coaching both of those sports that maybe that experience helped you out to finding success in the football world as well?
It's all about the people. When I first started coaching at Greensboro College, my boss and one of my mentors there, just it's all about managing the people and creating that culture of success just in totality. It's not just winning, because once you start doing things off the court and field that are successful, I found that it starts trickling into winning. And that's one thing we're trying to do here, obviously. But when I became a head coach at Johnson and Wells, I took over a new program that hadn't been successful, and I went in and was able to change the culture, and they really bought into it, and we were able to go from 15-win season our first year to was forced to win a national championship the next year. So I think the proof is in the pudding when it comes to that, and really it's about the culture and the people. So I think when you build those relationships, it doesn't really matter which sport it is, that people play hard for you.
Shifting gears a little bit, I know both of you are from the Greensboro, North Carolina area. I know a lot of people from Greensboro take a lot of pride in being from that part of the state. Alexis, what does it mean to you to be able to represent Greensboro?
I think it means a lot. Just representing Greensboro, not only Greensboro, my club that I play for, NC Fusion. So I think it means a lot, and just being able to have that name out there, so people can, when they see me, they think of Greensboro, so they'll think, okay, I might want to send my kid there to play, or I would just want to live there. It's good to be from Greensboro.
Coach, how about for you? How much pride do you take in being from that area and representing at the high level that you do?
I take great pride in being from that area. I grew up in Reedsville, which is down the street from Greensboro, but I think it's important, more representation. Reedsville is a small town, and it's important to get representation, that you can get out and do great things. And just because you're from a small town doesn't mean you can't see the world and do things. And that's something that I've realized, once I started doing these things, that people really respect that, and I don't take it lightly to represent Reedsville well.
When we had initially, you talked a lot about representation. When we had initially reached out to student coaches to see if they had student athletes who wanted to get into coaching, female student athletes, there was a really strong response of student athletes, and we wanted to go with a senior. We had Alexis, and there were, like I said, a bunch of student athletes who have interest in coaching. Coach King, what would your message be to those student athletes who have an interest in coaching?
It's a personal mantra that I developed a few years ago, which is be so good that you can't be denied. And that's something that I always challenge young coaches to be. Like, it's not going to be easy. Like, I don't know what your ultimate goals are, what levels you want to coach at. It's not going to be easy. It's always going to be tough times and maybe some no's and some doors shut in your face, which sometimes are compounded because you're a female. But know that if you have a plan, and if your skill set is so good, there'll always be value for you. So really try to be so good that no matter, because you're a female or anything, people can't deny you because your skills are so good at you and the value that you can bring to a team.
Alexis, don't mean to put you on the spot here, but I know Coach King has said a lot of really interesting things. Is there anything that you're curious about? Any questions that you may have for Coach King?
Sorry about the train in the background. I would guess how are you feeling? Like, there's certain processes through, I guess, different sports of going through coaching. But I guess through each level of coaching that you went through, like as you got higher and higher, how are you feeling as, when something didn't go your way, then you were like, and then when things didn't go your way. So like, how did you handle those situations?
Yeah, I think one of the main things to be a good coach is learn to deal with failure, because you're not going to win every game. Things are going to go wrong, but how do you handle it? And a really good coach always told me to fall forward. So when you fail, fall forward with it, and don't dwell in it, and just kind of move on and grow from it. So I think that's kind of how I handle those difficulties. And surprisingly enough, it does. Whatever level I've coached at, those failures are failures. Sometimes different failures, but they still suck, and still sucks to lose. But how can you learn and grow from it to hopefully it doesn't happen again?
Okay.
And just one, me being a big football fan, I love college football, like the NFL too. And I know last year you were with Dartmouth, who had a phenomenal offense. But what are some of the biggest differences that you've noticed between the college game and working at the professional level?
Oh, it's definitely the size and speed. it's amazing to watch, these NFL guys at their size be as strong and powerful as they are, and last week we were out in Arizona and I saw Larry Fitzgerald for the first time. He's massive, and I didn't know that. I didn't know he was that big. And to see him run and, we tell guys all the time, you don't cut back across the field because you have 300-pound guys knocking people out 30 yards down the field. And it's amazing that they're that fast, that they can run like that. So definitely just that speed and power, is the biggest difference, I've noticed from the collegiate to the NFL level.
Interesting stuff. I'm really impressed by everything that you do, and you're truly a role model for so many people, regardless of gender and race. So keep up the phenomenal work. Coach, thank you so much. Alexis, thank you so much as well. We look forward to seeing you out on the pitch once the soccer season starts up.
Thank you. Thank you, Coach
Thanks,
King,
man.
for talking to me.
Thank you, man. No doubt. Best wishes to you.